Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Euro Trade. I'm your host, Mark Stalker D. And today we're doing the old time, so for this week only. So we should be ready to kick everything off next week on Monday for the new time. But for now, let's see what we have today. All right, so where the overnight high is on gold at the moment, they're trying to go above that. I would say that the volume is actually growing right now. So this is probably not a fake out at this time of the day. Now, I don't know what the bot tried to do here because I'm testing it on this Combine account. And yeah, this is minus 15. So that typically means it tried to enter an order. So let's go and see what actually happened. Huh, I don't really see anything in the log. So that's interesting. Let me try and reinitialize the bot. So it's going to kick me out, so I'm going to have to re-log in. Okay. Let's see what it's going to say. Oh, I know what this is. This is the RBOB tester for the orders. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. So that's actually working. I was testing, totally forgot. I was testing the my own manual OCO, and I basically put a very, very tight stop and very tight targets. I literally like within a couple of ticks to see whether it's going to remove the opposing order, and I see that it has successfully managed to do that. So that's good. Now, while we're talking about OCOs, let's just focus on this one for a second. You may have seen that we've released the auto OCO brackets. Now, for us in the live, I think we can use them, but it's a little bit different. So I'm just going to talk about what you have available in XFAs and in combines. So if you know what the OCO orders are, it stands for one cancels other. So the brackets, they're in advanced order management. And one thing that we all wanted to see is a bracket at sort of at the bottom of the dome, but also you have it now on the charts too. So I have not used this, okay? We have Coach Robert coming up with a video on how to actually use this properly, but I can just give you the rundown of what we have at the moment. So auto OCO brackets work at the order level tied to specific entry orders. They allow multiple take profit targets per entry. So if you are somebody who likes to take profits at, let's say, 1.5 R, but then you want to let the rest of it run, this should allow you to do so. You can set it in dollar values or in ticks from your entry price. Now, in the future, we're also going to have the option to set them in points as well. Because I know that on something like NQ, if you set something in ticks, it looks like enormous. Even like a 20-point stop loss is 80 ticks. So for some people that might be psychologically a little bit difficult. But yeah, so once you execute an OCO, you will get 1 take profit and 1 stop loss. And I think if you try to enter another one, it should create yet another set of orders, but don't quote me on that. And they will automatically update as your position changes. So yeah. And you can actually use both types of brackets. Right now for the live, we have position brackets, which are set in this area here. And you can actually switch those to auto OCOs. The auto OCOs are also going to work with the copy trading on Topstep. So when you place your entry with brackets on your lead account, the brackets are going to be copied to your follower accounts as well. I don't really like people copy trading unless they're ready and they've already pulled out some cash from the markets. But yeah, that's just my opinion, obviously. There are no additional fees to use this. It comes as soon as you have a combine, and the brackets do work across all contracts, so that's pretty good. Now we have some questions that people have already asked, like what if the bracket orders don't fill exactly at my target prices? Bracket orders will only actually fill in relation to the entry order. So it's not going to be like, well, I entered here, but it filled me higher. They do scan what the orders have actually filled at, and then they will set it accordingly. So yeah. So anyways, yeah, you can ask me questions about it. Just know that I have not used them yet. So, you know, I have limited knowledge. I only know what the OCO brackets are supposed to do. Once I have a chance to test them out myself, because I do use OCOs across some other platforms as well, then I can provide more feedback. So yeah. Oren says, combine trading again. Listen, I am testing bots, okay? So I do have my live account on the other tab, which always kicks me out whenever I'm re-logging in. But once I log in, you see this live. So the live account is there. But I don't really like trading at this time of the day because my products on most days statistically don't really work for the summer day. The reason why we started these streams for the up 10th time was because we were supposed to have DAX, FDAX, okay? That never came. It might come in the future, but we are moving this show from next week to a new time slot that is prime time when I execute orders in my live account, okay? Now, I don't trade every day, Oren. I don't trade every day. If there's no setup, I won't enter a trade. If that's something you have a problem with, then perhaps this is not the stream for you, okay? I'm going to be very straightforward. You're very negative. You come in here every day and you're like, hey, you're doing combines again. Yeah, because I created bots that I'm not going to run in production on my live until I prove that they are behaving correctly. And they're doing okay, but there is this thing called the forward testing for bots. So unless you're an irresponsible trader, then you will just run a bot that you haven't tested immediately on the live account, which is utter nonsense, okay? So perhaps consider not criticizing people who have been doing this for 18 years, and perhaps go watch a stream where people are grasshoppers and they just enter trades as if somebody's chasing them rather than looking for actual setups. So are we clear on that? I'm not selling my bot. No, they're my strategies. We do have a software development company on the other side that basically sometimes licenses some of our algorithms that are not on Topstep. They are generalized algorithms that can be plugged in anywhere, but I myself, by myself, without my team, I'm working on the bots all alone. And that means that I need to make sure that I've done my job correctly, okay? And I'm not doing this to sell a bot. I'm doing this to make my life a little bit easier so that I don't have to sit in front of the screens all that much looking for setups. Before I used to do it and by setting alerts. And then I would get to, you know, the trading station when I would get an alert that my level is there. But I have a chronic illness for 4.5 years now, and it's kicking my butt on some days, okay? So I want to make sure that I make my life easier and that I can run some of my prop accounts using bots as well. That takes time to create, even though it only took me a month to create the entire library with the constructors and to get only 4 of my bots running. I do have 3 others that I'm working on, but again, that takes time, okay? So please stop saying stupid things and basically looking like your classic retail trader who's like, doing a combine. As a professional trader, you have moments where you get yourself into a slight drawdown period. Do you think most professional traders carry on trading their life? Like, I'm not in a drawdown, but you know, when I do get into a drawdown, which is always inevitable because there are seasonality aspects to my products, you then go and remove risk. So you go into a simulated account until your edge reappears. That's the point where you go back to your live. Now, I will be on fast markets on Thursday. I will be trading my live account. So if that's what you want to watch, go and join fast markets on Thursday, okay? But, you know, it's getting really annoying, like every single day you come and you literally always say the same thing. I'm not a scalper, okay? I look for bigger chunks of the market. That means I have to be extremely selective with my trade locations. And will I trade every single day? No. Some days I just sit it out. And if my one trade for the day works out and I get 2-3 R out of it, which is 100-200 ticks out of one trade, that is the only trade that I do, okay? I didn't say you were stupid. I said you come in here and ask the same questions and then criticize and look negative. You basically come in here and go, what, combine trading again? Like, how does that sound to you? Because to me, it sounds very negative. I maybe said you asked stupid questions. I didn't call you stupid. Stupid questions versus being stupid, 2 different things, okay? And again, if you have a problem with that, this is not the stream for you, so stop spreading negativity. Otherwise, Bruno is going to kick you out. Very simple. That's the only outcome for criticizing people that you don't know, you've never met, and you constantly have something to say that's negative. Just because I don't do 1 million trades per day. And Oren is like, well, this is my 3rd time watching your stream. And yet you've made the, actually yesterday, you said that you were here every day. So which one is it, mate? Are you here every day? Or is this your 3rd time watching my stream after it's been running for over a year? See, unfortunately, I have this thing called the photographic memory. So I do remember names and I do remember comments. So be very careful what you're stating here. Anyways, let's move on. And in fact, I am actually just gonna put you in timeout because this is too early. I'm coming away from a huge migraine that I had yesterday, and I cannot be dealing with this. So, time out for 24 hours. All right, so let's scan through some of the other markets, and thank you for raising my blood pressure there. So copper is in the middle of the range kind of thing. It's at the bottom quarter of the overnight low, overnight high. Let's have a look at what we have on very, very large time frames. As always, now on the weekly chart, all of these moves still look fairly small, even though copper keeps trying to get through this massive candle, and every time it attempts it, it gets smacked down. I'm not seeing any commitment in trend either side. So that means that I have to focus on whatever is going on intraday. I suppose if you look at it from an isolated perspective on the daily chart, you have higher highs, higher lows, which is all conducive to that attempted move through the massive weak structure that we've had from that smash down. What is happening with the 4-hour time frame? 4-hour time frame for Asia mainly went down. So that puts London and LME on the side to maybe test the overnight low, and then to have a long, basically a false breakout to the downside, and then maybe we can catch it to the upside. Gold needs some sort of a retracement for me personally, so I would like to see it dip down through this range, maybe down to VWAP, because this is now increasing in volume, but we are coming up to the ADR high. And even though gold can smash through the ADR high and keep going, statistically, it's not the best trade location for what I'm trying to do. So if you are somebody who's happy taking 30 ticks, that's okay, but I'm really aiming to take 200 out of it. And that means we either maintain the Asia range and then we do a fake out and reverse, or we go into a trend and then test one of the levels. So if we end up testing the overnight high and 37.95 holds, wouldn't mind executing an order, but I don't really have a bot that does that yet. Let me just get rid of the chart executions because I was testing out orders on HG the other day because it wasn't executing my stops. Yeah, so nothing to see on the very large time frame on gold. It's just going up, up, and up. It's a super strong trend, and don't necessarily want to fight it, but I do want to see a pullback because at these levels, the risk-reward profile is just really poor. And the only way that this would work is if it goes into yet another outlier day where we ignore the statistical averages and just keep going. Can that happen twice in a row? Yes, it can on gold. Do I want to break my rules? Absolutely not. So I will still want to see a pretty decent pullback somewhere so that I can maybe find a long setup that makes sense and does have more of a profit margin inherently inside it. All right. But we'll see what copper does, because maybe we can get a fake out and then the bot might decide to enter some longs, because the long is the closest level here. Let's have a look at the COMEX value areas. So COMEX value high for gold is actually lining up with the Asia low. Wrong chart. So here we go. So overnight low and COMEX value high are literally like within a tick of each other. So that would be a really, really good area for my longs. If we get there. If it doesn't get there, so be it. And here's the difference between the setups that are high probability versus the ones where you're chasing up to a level. They don't have the same probability as most things. So you would have some people who have a perfectly good level, but then they feel FOMO and then they are trying to short something down to their level. But there are no guarantees that the COMEX value high will get tested, okay? Nobody knows that. But when and if the price gets there, that is your high probability trade. Anything in between is you chasing and you trading through emotional decisions because you want to catch more. So if you can't stop yourself from pressing buttons at areas where you don't have an idea what it should do, but you just want it to go down there, that's not a plan. That's wishful thinking, I'm afraid. So, and I don't have that problem. Okay, so I don't. I can wait for a few days sometimes, if need be, for my perfect setup to be there. So that selectivity is what got me to the stage that I'm at. It wasn't entering willy-nilly every single trade setup and every single move that I'm trying to capture. So that's not the name of the game here for me. I am looking to take the biggest chunk of the trend for the day from really good levels. Okay. Hopefully we're on the same page now. Stefan is saying, when will gold hit 4K? I have the same chart as you. And I don't have a crystal ball. I just have my probabilities. And I'm also an intraday trader for these purposes. I don't speculate when something will happen or if. I just take it day by day. So what is happening today? Facts. We are trying to go above the overnight high. Is it successful? I don't know. I will tell you in about an hour or so. Okay. Why? Because if we have a sustained break above the overnight high, that means that the overnight high did not go into the regular normal day where the Asia sets the tone, then you have a liquidity grab, and then it kind of starts turning around. No, we're growing with volume, and it's continuing to push higher. But where would your risk be? This is a 5-minute chart. What sort of structure do we have? Where's the low? Where's the nearest low? It's down at 37.86. So overnight high is a good area because I can then run a trade with smaller risk and a higher risk reward profile. But right now I have the quantitative extreme sitting there at 38.16, which to me looks asymmetrical, right? So to me it looks like if you weren't in on a breakout already, this is now too late. Because now your risk needs to be bigger in relation to the overnight high, which was our reference point. And you only have statistical space up to 38.16. That's not a good thing. It's not a good setup. So whenever I see opportunities with this sort of an negative risk reward profile, I stay out of them. I do not chase. I do not care about the minuscule amount that this setup offers. I care about getting a larger chunk of the move. And if that means I have to wait for a few hours or a day, that's absolutely fine. Now, when I look at multiple products, I can usually find at least 3 to 5 trades per day. Okay. But sometimes I don't do that. I just focus on 1 or 2 products and that's it. And if neither of those two look great, I'm just not going to trade it. Riz Moy, guys, please don't apologize on somebody else's behalf. You're not responsible for their actions, so it is what it is. You know, this job comes with people who will criticize and criticize and criticize and criticize, and it's just the way it is. And I am not a doormat, so if somebody irks me and they find me on a day when I'm not really feeling that great, I will clap back. And today I just don't have the energy for humorous remarks and joking around with the trolls. So this is why you're seeing the D after the migraine day, because unfortunately my light sensitivity got me yesterday, and it was just it was a difficult drive back home, and then I just took a really long shower with like the shower kind of hitting my head. That felt good. The medication didn't do anything, and I just went to bed. Woke up a little bit later, managed to catch up on some of the VIP posts. And today I still have a little bit of a headache, so I'm sorry if I'm a little bit more irritable. And I have no tolerance for nonsense. Square247 is asking me, do I own stocks? Yes, I own a few stocks. I do invest every so often. So one of my better investments is the Palantir stock. So I picked that up a few years ago when it was only $9, and I'm probably never selling that. That is very unusual. And right now I'm kind of looking to maybe get into some quantitative quantum computing stocks. QuantumScape looks interesting. I also have some other. I had one of them on in my site, but I think it moved too much, so I need to wait for a pullback again. I did have some bio nano stocks. Christ, I can't even speak today. Bio nano genomics is their name. I sold those, so I held them for about 4 years. So I got rid of that. And you know, I am shopping. I am shopping and keeping an eye on any kind of long-term portfolio stocks. Now, every so often I will do an options trade in something like Nvidia, and the reason why is that I really dislike trading stocks outright that are that high up. Again, it is a risk-reward thing. So whenever you're doing an options trade, every options trade can have a very similar risk profile. So it doesn't matter how high up the stock is, you can still have a very good outcome because the options are derivatives and they work in a completely different way. So even if the stock is like up at 1,000, but there's some sort of a pullback, rather than buying a stock outright, I would do an options trade. In that case, my favorite options time frame is about 45 days, so I don't do 0 DTEs. I think 0 DTEs are useful in and around high risk releases, but personally, I just look at larger time frames. Sometimes, like I have done, like I'm not going to say I've never done 0 DTEs. I have done 2-day to expiry on crude oil. And even that is kind of rare, because really, if you're doing a 0 DT expiry, you want to see that movement pretty much happen within a day or two, the movement that you're after. And then if it doesn't, everything just starts to go sideways. So you have to be really careful with options. They are complex financial products. And a lot of people can lose a lot of money very quickly if you don't quite understand what you're doing. So again, Arun wants to know, what options platform are you using in the UK? So I was on Motive Wave. Was it Motive Wave? No, sorry, Tasty Trade. God, I think I was watching something about Motive Wave platforms the other day, so it kind of stayed in my head. Tasty Trade was the platform that I was using. I do have an account with Interactive Brokers as well, and I have quite a few sub-accounts on there because we used to run our algorithms through Interactive Brokers. So it's still there. Now, those are not in... so the Tasty Trade is in my name, but the other one is not because it's a company account. So, yeah. Obviously, I trade as a limited company. I'm not, you know, crazy. Because personal income tax in the UK is like at least 40%. And then if you mess up the dividend payouts, that can actually go even up to 50-60%, which is a lot. But there are definite positives living in the UK. So yeah. Paul H. asking me, have I considered writing options against my holdings? It seems like a win-win because you own the underlying assets. You can always settle and buy back. Yeah, so I do sometimes sell options. I do. So it's not all just long options. The only time I do that for income is if we are in a range-bound market. So that is something that you can explore as a strategy when the markets are clearly in range, which again is a case for crude oil a lot of the time, which is the reason why I do write options on crude oil, but I need it to be around the edges of the weekly range. So if we look at crude oil, let's try that again. We look at the weekly chart on crude oil. I mean, this is a new contract, so I don't know what this is going to look like. And if you identify the highs and the lows, and it doesn't have to be super accurate, but for example, I would say ballpark high, where we sort of rotate and then move away from it, would be around 72.50. So if we get up to 72.50, I would definitely write an option there. For stocks, I dislike writing options because stocks inherently have an upward bias. And if you are shorting the option, if you're not using a two-leg, so to protect it with another sort of buy order, that can get nasty really quickly if the option decides to move against you. And if you are just shorting options outright and doing covered calls, even for covered calls, depending on the size of the option related to your underlying, that can hurt. And I have done that before, so that is very painful. Where the option just starts, you think it's in a range, and then it just breaks out and it goes against you. So you have to be really quick to close it and to minimize the loss. But you can do options with two legs that will protect that loss. Unfortunately, it also minimizes the profit. So the trade-off. So yeah. All right, so far my bots are all scanning. So as you can see, this is the Asia range that the bot has set, and it got it perfectly to a tick. I need to sort this out. This is bothering me because this is too many decimal points. That needs to be cut off. I might actually just cut it off at full numbers, round numbers, because I don't really need decimal points to figure out the range in points. And that that strategy is also telling you what it's waiting for, and it's telling you where the current range is set. So I have it set for 75% range as a rotation. Now on the overnight bot for HG, for copper, I have a slightly different profit target, which is a 50%, because I just know that that works a little bit better on copper at the moment. Once we get into some colder weather, there are a lot of heating elements that use copper, so there will be naturally a higher demand for copper. So that is a time when copper really starts to move. All right, so just to explain crude oil, so here is the ballpark low. So again, I'm not being super accurate there. I just want like a zone where I might want to look for some options. And it looks like it's around 54.50 on this particular contract, because every time we sort of got near that area or hit it, eventually there was a reversal. But again, I usually wouldn't run it as a 0 DTE or anything like that. It would be a longer time frame. So I really like 45 days options. But again, it's a personal preference. You know, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do 0 DTs if you're so inclined. All right, let's get back to some intraday time frames. And I don't know, maybe I can make a silver bot that uses the same logic. Yeah. Rigoberto is asking me, Dee, my wife has migraines too. They're chronic. What do you do to help it? So my migraines are not actually proper, like they're horrible headaches that do make me quite sick, but they are caused by the chronic illness. So I have the dysfunction of the autonomic nervous system. I'm so sorry. The talking part is not doing very well today. So I'm going to do my best to maybe slow myself down. So yeah, I have a vaccine injury that unfortunately happened to me nearly 4 years ago, or 4.5 years ago. And it causes a whole bunch of weird symptoms because obviously it is in the central nervous system. It's some sort of a damage to the central nervous system. Now, I have gotten a lot better. So if you saw me like 2.5, 3 years ago, actually just before I got involved with TopstepTV, I went on this like novel protocol that was very fringe, and it involved antibiotics for like 3 months, 3-4 different types of antibiotics with a bunch of supplements, and that snapped me out of the worst of it. But my migraines are purely the result of the light sensitivity that I experience, especially with sunlight. So artificial lights are okay for some reason, but sunlight, I don't know why, it just does something to my brain, whether it increases the brain inflammation or some weird other thing that happens inside my body, and then my body responds with a horrendous migraine. So I can't even look at my phone. I have to wear glasses, like shades. I have these special shades that block out all UV light and everything, and they have sides, so they're like really unusual. And you know, at my worst, I am usually just able to put on my eye mask and just fall asleep. But yesterday, I forgot my sunglasses, and I had to drive my Seven, one of my dogs, for her space. So as you know, yesterday I was in a co-working space, and as I was driving, the sun was really glary, and it just kind of kept hitting my face and my eyes. And I was like, oh God, I should have brought my shades. But I'm like, oh, I'll be fine. And this is the problem with me, where I just push through things. I'm like, nah, it's okay. It'll be all right. So instead of going to the shops and actually buying a pair of glasses, which I should have done, I decided to pretend that I'm not sick and that it's all okay. I do that a lot, unfortunately, because, you know, in my head, I don't want to be sick, like no one does. So on the way back, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse until I got home. I managed to get myself out of the car, and I gave my Seven meds. You know, made sure that she's comfortable. We are both sleeping in the spare room away from the others, because she can't be socializing and stuff, and she's absolutely fine. You know, she went through it swimmingly. She wasn't very happy on the way home, so she kept squealing, and I think that kind of also combined with the sunlight just glaring in my eyes maybe wasn't the best thing. So what I do when the migraines are really bad, first order of business is to take something with like opioids. So I have Nurofen Plus, which is over the counter in the UK. You have to answer a couple of questions, but because of my illness, I always have it on hand. And I take 2 or 3 pills. So I first take 2 pills. If that doesn't do anything, I take another one. But yesterday that barely got rid of just like the edge. So I was like, okay, I'm not about to throw up, but you know, it's pretty bad. So I did the old trick of getting some chips with a lot of salt, because there's something that happens with the electrolytes as well in your body when the migraines are like really hitting you. No, be quiet. You gotta settle. And then I made myself a little concoction of a lot of ice, Monster, peach tea, peach iced tea, which naturally has black tea inside it, so it's got more caffeine. And what else did I put in there? And I think I just put like some acai powder or something, just to like make it a little bit more palatable. And that helped. But then I also found that the shower just hitting your head, and especially like the forehead, is the best sort of cure for me. Because when I'm really in pain, that's the only thing that sort of doesn't make me it I don't know why, maybe it's like the massage. And then I also have this this stick which is like a menthol, so I put that all over my temples. I mean, it's just such a performance, isn't it? But yeah, so all of those together eventually didn't manage to get rid of it, but I did have to have a little sleep. So an eye mask is absolutely essential. If your wife is anything like me, you know, you just cannot have like the smallest bit of light. It just kills you. It's like literally like somebody stabbing you in the eyes. It's horrible. So yeah, those are some of my cures for anyone who suffers from a migraine and then it knackers you out. And despite me having a lot of caffeine, because I you know, had probably like the entire monster in my little drink, and whatever caffeine is in the black tea and the peach iced tea, I passed out. And you know, I was asleep from like 11 p.m. all the way till this morning, as if I have not had any caffeine. So hopefully that helps. You know, those are some of my coping mechanisms with chronic conditions. And yeah, it's not easy. It's horrible. It like completely stops you from being able to do anything. And then the next day, you're better. The pain is largely gone, but you almost kind of feel like your whole brain is bruised. You're very irritable. So I'm not going to be a nice person to deal with today. So, and I do apologize in advance to everybody who I snap at. I'll try not to, and I do try my best, but you know, it takes a very small amount of irking me to make me go into like yep, and then obviously I start blocking people on air. Obviously, I'm not always like that. You guys know me. I'm usually very tolerant of everybody, but today I just can't do it. Like, my emotional tolerance is at a bare minimum. Should I trade today? I don't know, but somehow, because I have the bots, you know, maybe I'll have an argument with the AI. You know, maybe I should take it all out on the AI. Is that an option? Do they take offense? We'll find out. De-arguing with AI. Would that be a good video? So Bruno says he's had the same thing since he did LASIK surgery. See, I did LASIK in 2010, and I have had zero consequences from it. In fact, you know, if I didn't know I had it, I just would, like, sometimes I forget completely that I had LASIK. And I was really blind. Like, I was -6.5 in the left eye and -5.25. So, you know, life without contacts or very thick glasses, even though I got the titanium ones with like super thin glasses, they can only do so much when you have such a big prescription. And to me, you know, knock on wood, I have not experienced any side effects. My eyes were a bit dry, I think, for the first couple of days. And the way it is with LASIK after the surgery, you just, once the drops wear off, it's kind of like as if you've been peeling onions. Like, it's really not that bad. So for me, the worst thing was like, I think a day after LASIK. So yeah, but you know, we're all different. Just because I had nothing, you see, Bruno had the problem with light sensitivity. Some people end up with dry eyes constantly. But yeah, I was very lucky in that respect. And you know, I generally have pretty good regenerative abilities, but this vaccine injury thing has really been, it's been a huge challenge. On some days it's worse, you know, other days I'm almost normal and I can like go out and function for 2 hours. I still can't do too much social, but you know, I'm able to do my job generally on most days. You know, obviously if I feel terrible, I will, but here's the thing with me. I have a crazy brain, right? So even if I feel terrible, I will still try and push through things, and that is not something you should be doing when you're under the weather. You should just kind of accept it. That's the part that I'm still learning to do. I think I've gotten better with pacing and with not overdoing things, because I think I was making myself much more ill before. Let's have a look at something like platinum. I don't have a bot for platinum or anything, but maybe that can have a different outlook for this time of the day, even though it can follow gold quite a bit. All right, so first things first, find the overnight high. And then find the overnight low. Interestingly, the range on platinum for overnight is comparatively smaller than gold, because if we look at them side by side, and if I go down to 5-minute chart here as well. No, actually, let's go up to the 30-minute, because that is a better overview. And then just to make it sort of even, so if we take that this is the range that that we're breaking out of, interestingly, the wicks, the selling wicks are kind of appearing. And what I find really different about these two products that are highly correlated is that we had a pop. So this could mean that the platinum is actually weaker today than gold. And since that pop, it sort of climbed up a little bit more, but the volume is falling off. Whereas on gold, the volume is actually continuing to grow. So I would say platinum is probably weaker out of these two. And when did they break out? So platinum broke out first. It was early, and then it started to dilly-dally around. So yeah, if I was gonna look for any sort of mean reversions, I think I would probably be focusing on platinum instead of gold. And the thing with platinum, once it moves, it just moves, and it doesn't take too long to actually get the 100 ticks that I'm after. So platinum is still in October contract, so we have not moved from it. That is still the highest volume. And unlike gold, so if you want to know where the options levels are, gold actually has a gamma wall and the core resistance from the 0 DTs at 38.25. But platinum is much closer to its gamma wall. Gamma wall on platinum is 14.55. So pretty close by. That could be an interesting setup. Once we get to LME, obviously we're doing the old time now, so really looking forward to next Monday when we start. When we start with the actual LME time. What's going to happen is that whatever high it carries on to create, and it's the same thing in gold, whatever high continues to happen, that will be printed as the overnight high. So that when LME starts, if we take that out and have that breakout and false movement attempt, that becomes a mean reversion opportunity as well. So out of these two, I would probably be happier trying something like that if we get the correct behavior on the volume side in platinum over gold, because I do think that gold is the stronger of the two, for sure. Let me have a look at larger time frames, because we never want to trade without the context, the context of the higher time frames. And again, if you see the daily chart, gold is just like up, up, and up. Whereas platinum is coming into some supplies here that we rejected before. So if they can hold that even for like, 20 minutes, that could be a little mean reversion opportunity if it sets up correctly. And just looking at the volumes on the daily. Yeah, so volume is not super crazy on the daily. And I would say it's kind of losing steam on this upside move. Whereas gold... Gold is still slightly printing above that moving average on the daily chart. So that is still pretty strong. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the markets to just keep going up. One way that I found to take advantage of it is that if we truly end up in an outlier day, I will look for a pullback in and around either LME close, which is 5 p.m. my time, or in and around COMEX settlement, which is 6:30 p.m. my time, and then do like a cheeky long that then takes about 2-3 hours, but still just carries on pushing. We saw that, I think we saw that yesterday. So let's have a look at the 30-minute time frame. Because I had a look when I woke up. I'm like, oh, I wonder what gold did. So let's have a look. So this is the Euro close, LME close, settlement. All right, so this is post-settlement. And it didn't carry on. Like sometimes it will just carry on and on. So this is where it settled, pushed up. And on some days, if it's like a truly relentless uptrend that just takes no prisoners. Now, interestingly, here's the LME sell-off. I'm just going to check whether this is running my actual time zone. So where are we now? 10. Yeah. So as I was doing the stream yesterday, I think we were looking at this area. Was that yesterday? Yeah. And then it did do a little bit of a pullback. So remember, I was looking for shorts. And it did pull back a little bit. Like literally just after the stream was done. And then it started going up. So this sort of a pattern is something that I would look for at settlement for COMEX if I'm suspecting that we have. And when I say suspecting, this is where the slightly discretionary part of my trading is. I'm looking at how the market behaves whenever a potential sell-off happens. So I would be seeing that, sellers attempt to do something, and I look in Bookmap, and every time they sell it, somebody just goes, no, and pushes it back up, like really quickly. So that to me is usually a sign of that outlier day that just kind of keeps pushing. But unfortunately, in this case, they kind of ran out of time. And then the next push was really not until like 4 a.m. in the morning, my time. But after settlement, they didn't really do all that much. It just pushed up a little bit and then settled in a range. So that's not a true sort of crazy day where it carries on past settlement to just smash into new all-time highs over and over. So yeah, that's interesting. Okay, I'm gonna go down to platinum. Now the question is, sometimes around these quantitative extremes, the ADR high, we can have a reversal. Every time I'm trying to do an ADR reversal type setup, I will Usually stay on the 15-minute chart, and then I will wait for the full bearish engulfing or some kind of a 2 or 3 bar reversal to happen. Doesn't really matter what it looks like. What it does matter is that it breaks the structure of the previous candle. What does that mean? Well, two things. We would need to reclaim the low of this current candle, which is incidentally right on the nose of 38.16 where the ADR high is located. So if that breaks and we hold with quite some conviction, that could be a decent setup. And I wouldn't really run that for a full rotation through the entirety of the Asia range and entirety of the COMEX value. I wouldn't. I would just run it up to the overnight high where we broke out from, and that would be the end. So to me, that's more of a scalp. That's like D style scalp, where you still take a big chunk, but it's technically against the whole trend. However, the initial signal that I do not look for 5-minute chart, 3-minute chart, 2-minute chart. That's for a different thing, right? Fake outs and false breakouts on the basis of the Asia range, that is a different setup. And that I do stare at bookmap 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, and then I smoosh it all together. Bjorn says, feels like there's no market structure in high time frames with gold. I struggle to find the nerve to enter a position. Yeah, it's a common problem. Contrary to popular belief, markets that just go up or down just relentlessly, they're not the easiest markets to try and control your risk on. You know, maybe from an investing perspective or, you know, swing or position trading, that can be the case. But I also find the singular direction markets a little bit tricky. Because like, where do you put your risk? We're supposed to manage risk first. And you're like, I don't know. So one way to get around that is to look for an intraday time frame reference. So in my case, I usually have a couple. So I have the COMEX outer edges of value, and I have the Asia range as well. So if it happens that we have like an overlapping area, like for example, right now we have overnight low and the COMEX value high, exactly the same price point. If the price gets there, that would be my star setup, because we're in an uptrend. We're testing the edge of the distribution curve. We've already had a pretty big sell-off if we get to that point, and very likely we will extend the day's range up to that, like that much of a pullback. For me, that's an amazing opportunity. So I'm like, hell yeah, I'm getting in on that. But, you know, if it's just going up, to me, I don't feel FOMO. I just look at this as like, it's not lining up. You know, if I had a less crazy breakout and if we just kind of popped outside of the high and then maybe tested the high after the breakout, that could be used as an entry into an area. But yeah, it's a little bit difficult. So Bjorn, I'm totally with you there. Yeah. Trending markets that have no structure intraday, not the easiest. Not the easiest. Like, you might get lucky because the, you know, poor choice of a trade location might be forgiven because there's so much momentum around. But without momentum, if you mess that up and there's still no momentum, then all you're going to get is a stop out, and yet it still goes up without you. And you're like, well, great, now I'm staring at a loss, and it still went up. What's up with that? And it's not good for our emotional health. Definitely. So to me, over the years, I just decided that unless I can catch a breakout on my terms, I don't really want anything to do with it. And I'm 100%, 110, 200% okay missing out on those moves. But then again, I catch a fair amount of them as well, because a lot of them will look less crazy and will actually come from more sane breakouts that give you the opportunity to both limit risk, and they create a bit of structure around the former high, and that gives you an ability to say, well, if it breaks back into the range after this little consolidation post-breakout, that could be my risk, right? But if you don't have that, you're just like, well, what am I supposed to do? Use a 150 tick stop loss to try and somehow? But to me, that's not what we're trying to do, right? We're risk managers. And if I have to use a million ticks to survive a position, is that actually a good position? Probably not. And therefore I stay out. Investor Z says, what is ADR? ADR stands for the average daily ranges. It is a statistical measure, very simple. You know, you take the previous 10 to 14 days. Now, the way I calculate it, I do have a dynamic measure that takes the open and then starts to track highs and lows of that range. And then when one side exhausts that number, the average, that becomes the exhaustion area. And sure, you can have outlier days that just keep going past that, but they are rare. They typically happen on gold. I think they happen about 12% of the time, but you look at everything else, like all the other products, it's more like 6 to 8% where it happens. And gold also has this interesting behavior where it likes to test both sides of the initial balance range for COMEX, and then it breaks out. And it does the same thing for LME related initial balance. And just to clarify, for me, LME initial balance is only 40 minutes. Because again, we don't have time to do like, you know, an hour, hour and a half, wait for COMEX. So if I'm going to find a trade based on the initial balance developments, I need it to happen after the 40 minutes of LME have been done. But usually by then, something has happened with the overnight high or low, and we can actually use those for liquidity grabs. So to give you an example, so what my bot is going to do is to keep tracking where these overnight highs are happening. So once it gets to LME open, it's going to stop tracking the real-time high, and it's going to establish the overnight high. So anything before LME is overnight range. The same structure can be used for the actual London session open, which is at 8 a.m. But I feel on gold, because Shanghai exchange closes. We have Tokyo exchange that's already closed at that time. And then you have Eurex, which doesn't really trade gold much. So you almost have this like dead period after the London actual open happens. Not today. Today they're pretty lively, but on most other days, we've sat here together, and what does gold do? It consolidates for 2 hours. It's like, how exciting. Yes, great. Aaron Future says, Deeyana, do you have an explanation of how we are creating all-time highs on the NQE and ES day after day? Isn't the US economy heading in a negative direction? No, it is not. I don't know where you got that. I think they had a bit of a slowdown in the GDP. But as far as they're concerned, inflation is not out of control, and it's pretty much on track. You know, maybe at some point, and remember that the equities prices just keep going up unless it's a semi-apocalypse. The only time I've seen equities actually not keep making all-time highs is COVID, credit crunch. I think we had a bit of a wobble in the European equities for the austerity measures in 2012 as well. Trade wars, you know, something that is almost like Mad Max style. It's like, are we going to have to take up machete and start wearing weird masks on our faces? No, hold on, that was COVID. Damn it. Yes, we've already been there. But yeah, so I'm joking, but it is the truth, right? Unless the whole world is melting down, and it's basically caused by something that a regular person on the street also knows about, equities go higher. It's just the nature of equities. I've been watching them for, because I was watching the S&P index even when I was trading Forex from 2007, because it was like, oh yeah, you have to watch the index. So I've watched it make all-time highs constantly. The only squiggle there was credit crunch. So we had a huge wipeout of, I think, 10 years worth of movement. But then they introduced QE, quantitative easing. And then it turned around and just started trickling in like the slowest possible way, where the ranges on ES were no more than like 4 or 5 points for the entire day. And when I went into prop, they were like, well, we all trade, you know, we have a lot of ES traders. And I was like, why? I didn't get it. I was like, to me, that's like a terrible, slow snail of a product. Why are people trading this? Like, what is the reason? And I actually asked to be moved from an equities desk to something that moves more, because it was like killing my soul. And they said, well, maybe we can, you know, put you on the energies markets. And I was like, you can trade crude oil today? Because in my head back then, 2012, I thought that crude oil was something that you did commercially. You know, I didn't imagine there would be speculators in it. And then I loved it. It was very technical. It had these like times of day that was like clockwork. You could literally set your clock by the reversals in crude oil. It's like, oh, crude oil is reversed. Is it 3? Yes. Is it 9 a.m.? Oh, yes. It's a reversal time. But yeah, equities just go up. And this is why I don't like teaching people on equities, because it's like, oh, what do? Well, we wait for a pullback and then we go long. Yeah, great for skill development. It's like somebody teaching you how to drive, and they don't teach you how to swerve left or right, or to do a U-turn, or to actually parallel park. You know, they just kind of teach you to go forward. Is that a good skill set? I don't think so, because the situational awareness is not necessarily there, because you're always like so one-sided. And longing equities is absolutely the right choice on most days. In fact, every time I do trade equities, I would be very suspicious unless we're sort of coming into Euro close and I'm looking for a scalp. If we have the MOC development, so market on close, that's something that happens within the last 10 minutes of the day. They actually stagger the two algorithms. So you have one that happens at 10:02 and then another one at 5:02. Don't know how many people know that. And what happens is that if we have overwhelming sort of delta divergence at the time, and everything has been going down, down, and down, while delta has been kind of growing positive, that's a delta divergence because the price is going down. Or you can have heavily negative delta, which is with the market movement, but it just gets too negative. That's also a thing. However, it doesn't work the other way. So if you have an up day and MOC comes and the delta is overwhelmingly positive, I have not seen too many long squeezes happening, as in like people suddenly starting to sell off. It just doesn't happen. It just pushes it, inches it a little bit higher, even so, after a tiny pullback, and that's your MOC done. So I'm very selective with the days that I trade equities. DAX I trade a bit more. So DAX is something that I quite like trading for this time of the day, which was the sole reason we picked this time for the Euro trade. But they had quite a few problems implementing Euro per tick into our USD dashboard. And yeah, so DAX might come at some point, but they just weren't able to do it in the time frame that we were expecting. So we all agreed that since we only have metals and energies markets, that it would be a better idea to move the entire show closer to LME. So that's what we're doing. Can we take a look at gas, or too late for the day already? No, we're just starting. Natural gas has its own time of day, and it starts to liven up only at 11 my time. So literally in about 20 minutes, that's when it will start coming alive. I do need to have a look. Let me find it for all of my lovely data sets. Oh yeah, I had to redo my platform, so I don't have it. Where are we? We are still in V. So let me just load my template. for template. Quite obviously, natural gas is still in free fall, and I don't think we're going to get like proper natural gas demand until real cold weather comes in. Every so often, yeah, you might see it trend up, but yeah, it's not yet that cold. Just like some of the other products like copper, for example, it is also very seasonal. If you have a hurricane somewhere, like some sort of an elementary disaster, there will be a natural demand for natural gas as well. But outside of that, the only thing that brings demand back would be cold weather. So how cold is it in the Midwest? Is the first question to ask yourself. On the weekly chart, it's looking very, very negative. But at the same time, we are coming into some zones of potential demand. So if I mark this area as a previous area of demand where we tried to make a new lower low, failed, and then we created a huge move upside, you can see that we touched the edge of it, the outer edge. I call those the conterminous line, like common price point. Conterminous means common. And it bounced. But is it a dead cat bounce? Probably, because I think that this looks very weak. If it was a true reversal, we would be able to stay away from this whole area for extended periods of time, but that did not happen. So natural gas still kind of short on pullbacks for me. Let's see what we have on the daily chart. It's very similar outlook, so all red candles. There is there is maybe an argument to say that whilst we have 4 down candles consecutively, that's not statistically likely to have yet another down day. Because if you have a look, just like by... Did I just do the same thing again? Oh no. How do I keep doing that? Like, look at that. I managed to basically put the... Can somebody tell me how to get out? Yeah, I managed to put the bloody chart into a window. I did this once before as well, and for the life of me, I have no idea how I did that. And I couldn't get it back. I actually had to reload the layout. Okay. But I don't know whether now natural gas is going to be stuck. No. Okay, so that's back. Jesus. Someday I will learn all the charting quirks. But yeah, if we look at the daily chart, and if we just start scanning back, you will see that it's very rare to have 4 down days. And, usually it's like 3, and then we have a little bit of a relief rally. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so here we had quite a few, and then it bounced. So let's say 4 or 5. Here's another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then comes back up. 1, 2, then a relief. 1, 2, 3, 4, then an up day. 1, 2, then a doji. 1, 2, 3, then an up day. So really, after about 4 down days, there is a statistical chance that we end up going up today. So that's very kind of slim way of looking at statistics, but it is something. So gun to the head, what do I want to do today? Because of the position of where natural gas is, there is some value. It may be coming up with some long positions there. Let's have a look at some options levels as well. So we have a put support area at 275. So that is right here. Let's make that white. And let's call it put supports. Natural gas is one of those products that likes to test and then slightly slip these levels. I don't know whether we're in negative or positive gamma environment. If it's a negative gamma environment, you can expect these levels to be more accelerators, but sometimes they smack into it, try to bounce, and then it just falls through it as if it's not there. But it does cause a little bit of a push and pull and tug of war around the level before it decides to go through it. And that's a negative gamma environment behavior. Another option would be to just look at how the price behaves once we arrive at the put support level, whether it's staying below it, reclaiming it, and all that good stuff. When it comes to the NYMEX values, NYMEX value absolutely tiny yesterday. No, really, not really good for anything because it's yeah, why is that so small? So basically Monday just did absolutely nothing. Just gonna double check my settings here. Yeah, that's all fine. Yeah, so the majority of yesterday's trading was incredibly tight, in fact. I'm only talking NYMEX. There was some action during London. So yeah, the entire session was like $30 ticks. That's so small. London, however, did have a field day with it. Started off really lively, very unusual. But that still did not do but we still haven't we didn't do that today. But one thing I am noticing is that London tends to be a little bit more lively now. Just wonder whether it's because we are having a bit of cold weather, so people are like, yeah, let's let's buy some natural gas. That could be because we've just had like the first couple of days that are a little bit colder. Interesting. But today it's just not moving, so it's looking like a NYMEX day today. So we're gonna be probably seeing NYMEX picking up speed. But yeah, interesting that London has been the mover for natural gas. How long has that been going on? All right, so it has been going on. Let me just minimize this and then I can actually go back in time. So when that start happening? Hold on. Hold on just a minute. No, that is correct. Yeah, so what I'm seeing is that throughout August, actually, London kind of started taking over. And throughout the entirety of August, it maintained a bigger London range. And when did that start? All right, so that started actually towards the end of May. Like London just suddenly started. What I'm doing, I'm looking at the size of the sessions. And London started taking over halfway through May. COMEX was still holding on. So yeah, literally just as we hit summertime, London started taking over. I do trade natural gas, not super frequently, but yeah, probably because I look at NYMEX and totally didn't catch this. Interesting. Yeah, but today is not that kind of a day. So we do not have any movement whatsoever. But I can give you the quantitative extremes. maybe even London value areas, because that could be more relevant. London value low all the way up at 286. London value high up at 291. Quantitative extreme of average daily high is actually up at 289, so halfway through that range. And then the average daily range low is far down, closer to 270, 269 actually. So maybe mean reversion up to London value could be a good choice for some 60, 70 points. So yeah, longs for me are not out of the question today on nat gas. But London so far is trading in a 15 tick range. That's pathetic. So maybe natural gas is, I mean, it could liven up, but let's see, let's see as we get closer to NYMEX, whether NYMEX is going to start taking over. It wouldn't be my first choice on the day, to be honest. Like, obviously, if we don't have much movement, it's a little bit tricky. Right, what is gold doing here? So we have that 15-minute bearish engulfing that broke the structure. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fall down to like a 2-minute chart. And as it's touching this area, I would like to see it increase in some volume on the short side. And then we might have a live trade here developing. ADR high reversal, but I do need it to go back under the ADR high, otherwise it's just reclaiming the area and there's no shorts here. So signal 1 would be that bearish engulfing and the structure change, but we still have to see continuation, and I want to see that continuation before we get to the equilibrium of these two candles, which technically was at 38.21. 3820.6 if we're going to nitpick. If it goes higher than that, this is literally just a bit of profit taking before they take it higher. But if we continue to go below ADR and the volume can justify that, this would be a short reversal ahead of LME on the basis of exhausting the average daily range. So yeah, and typical, just as I'm coming closer to what's going to be the new time, I'm looking at a potential setup. And this has been the theme of the whole year of me staring at gold for this time of the day. So you get nothing, nothing, nothing. Today is actually pretty good on gold. It actually pushed it up quite significantly, but yeah. So yeah, maybe a short, but those are my conditions. We have to stay below 3820.6. If it goes higher, it's not a setup. So I need to see volume to the short side stepping in, price action following, because those two are not isolated components. They are actually very much connected, because volume is what really drives everything. However, sometimes if the price is not following that, it could indicate absorption of the orders at that level. And then you end up with high volume churn. There's like a ton of volume coming through, but the price is just like a doji. That's absorption when you're just looking at a price action chart and you still want to recognize it. But it's best done via bookmap, because you can actually see it happening. I think they even have like an indicator for it. Just absorption of orders. And it has to be done in context. It cannot be done you just looking at bookmap and just going, oh yeah, this is absorption in the middle of nowhere. I'm just gonna trade based on that. You need to have a level, then volume and price at the level, and then smush that into a situational awareness for context. Algorithmic trade solution. Click the indicator and drag it back down to the time axis. All right, so next time I'm going to try doing that. But I managed to reload the whole chart. So yeah, I do need to learn how to do that because this is like the second time it's happened on the stream. I just dragged the entire chart into the indicator window and I'm like, yeah, what gives? Yeah. All right, let me just have a look at the chat. Paul says LME has shown up to work today. Yes, the holidays are over. Yeah, so LME isn't for another 40 minutes. Time for another coffee? I'm pretty sure that I can use some caffeine for sure. I might have to go back for a little snooze after this. Like I've noticed I'm frowning a lot today, and I do apologize, but yeah, it's just this is gonna be a bit of a tough day. Right, so far they touched the top of the area. There's a little bit of a reaction, but still no volume following. We need to see, you know, the red volume stepping in. Right now, this looks like a pullback, and like they're gonna carry on. Like they're gonna carry on higher. So without volume and commitment, somebody else with deeper pockets stepping in and going, yes, yes, we want to sell here. We will take 50. So let's have a look at diamond sales. This is how I imagine things in my head, right? Like you're in the pit and you get up to a certain level. And then you imagine someone, you know, screaming out prices and it's like, do you want it at 38.18? Do you want it? And if there's, you know, some interest, obviously this guy will be like, I'll take 6. I'll take 2. I'll take 1. And then you see how many people have done that. And that effectively should override, if you're going to see a reversal, those orders should override. But you could have a situation of these guys who were long also exiting their orders. So what's an exit for a long order? It's a sell. So it all kind of gets this like snowball effect. And some people are like, there's no buying or selling pressure, you know? It's like there's volume and buying and selling pressure does exist, but I would classify not as there's more buyers than sellers because it's a zero-sum game. They have to find a counterparty for each one of them, but rather who is faster. So it's like the speed of orders. Because if you have somebody who just plops in one big order, that tends to have a limited effect on the market. But if that same order, let's say you have 100 contracts, it goes 20 contracts, then 20, then another 20, then sell more, sell more, sell more. And then suddenly there's this like continuous stream of shorts that are stepping in. So other people start noticing that and they're like, hold on a minute, they know something I don't, maybe I should be selling here. But when you have a context already at the level, you know what you're looking for. So you're no longer just going, oh, these guys are selling, I wonder why. So you can just go, I want to be a seller here. And if the buyers step back up, I'm fine with letting this go. Absolutely fine. So the way my brain works is the same as an algorithm effectively. And I've worked very hard to get myself to that point where it's like, we have a level. And every time I step away from that, for whatever reason, I immediately notice a difference in my performance results. Immediately, right? So look at now. So now we have a bunch of them on the short side stepping in. But there's not enough of them, right? So the volume is still fairly meh. It hasn't even gone past the previous candle. We need the shorts to override the longs. We need it. We need it. So yeah, that's one of the things that I'm going to be watching. If we get to LME open in like 37 minutes or so. And we have a new overnight high that is still here, so 38.24. That will be picked up by my algorithm. And I'm going to be watching that to see whether the bot is going to scan, because I have a scanning, the volume scanner in there as well. So it has to have that event of shakeout volume, and then it goes in upon the return of the range. That's something I'm going to be watching. But yeah, unfortunately, no trades for this time of the day yet. But the day is young, so we may find one throughout the session. That's all from me today. So hopefully everybody is going to have a good day. Until tomorrow, I will see you for, again, the old time, so 9:30 a.m., which is 3:30 a.m. Central, for another 2 days. Fingers crossed. So yeah, don't do anything silly today. So what is today? It's a Tuesday. Try to follow your rules. Try to follow your risk. Lock out the risk settings. You know, maybe play around with these new OCO orders. They look like fun. And I will see you for the final two, hopefully, the final two Eurotrade editions. And then we're going to be having a new name for the show with new assets, new theme tune, new everything. And then we can start looking at LME. That's all I've got. I'm Marcus Talker D, and this was the Eurotrade. Enjoy the rest of your day.